Welcome to Beyond. We're coming to you from Newport Beach. We have an incredible guest today that has a very, very important mission for Orange County. We have Annette Walker, who is the president of City of Hope. And I just have to stop a second because, as a background, Annette has 6 children, multiple grandchildren, and what I'm about to read to you is like, wow. Annette is a visionary and healthcare leader tapped to build the City of Hope in Orange County, a 21st century approach to treating and curing cancer and other serious illnesses. Named one of the top 25 most influential women leaders in U.S. health by Modern Healthcare magazine, a top woman in business and a top 50 OC influencer by the Orange County Business Journal. Annette is a master at strategic planning, and before coming to the City of Hope, she served as president of strategy for Providence St. Joseph's Hospital, which is, by the way, the country's 3rd largest health system. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's no small feat. Annette's incredible legacy includes expanding access to wellness and preventative services for communities and businesses, as well as leading the development of new tools and programs that empower the healthcare consumer, which I know is a rage today in Washington and certainly I think has been taken up in other countries. The recipient of many national honors and a prolific speaker and writer, Annette believes her proudest achievement, I love this part, is partnering with her husband Chuck to raise a close family of 6 that includes a dozen grandchildren.
Yep.
We were talking before we just came on, like, I think it's much harder for women in career because if the expectation is to have a family and then to have this amazing career, I guess the question is, how did this all get started for you? This is an amazing career.
Actually, I remember very clearly a point in my life where it became a career. It wasn't always a career. Early after I had my first few positions, I was working because frankly we needed me to work. You have kids, you have to pay for stuff, and it was a job. And then there was a point, and I don't actually remember exactly how old I was, but I remember consciously making the decision that, okay, if you're going to be here all the time anyway, you're gonna be the best that you can be, and you're going to be the most that you can be because you're putting in the time. So excel at it. Decide what you want to be and how you want to manage a career as opposed to a job.
So when you first started out, you didn't say I had visions of being a head of Providence St. Joe's or this or that. You started off with I need to support the family.
I need to support the family, and I actually think most people, not just women, start off that way. And the great thing about I think the world that we live in is the choices that we have and the opportunities that we have. And I luckily worked for some really good companies where I was able to advance and diversify my skills without always having to leave and always having to change. And so I had several really long stints with some companies really adding to my skill set and growing in my responsibility. So I was really fortunate from that point of view. But no, I didn't wake up one day and go out of college and say, I'm going to be a CEO of a health system. It just wasn't even on my radar. But I did know I wanted to always be the best I could be at whatever I did. And so I say my work ethic and my drive were always about being excellent at whatever was in front of me.
Well, clearly, as I look at some additional recognitions, Orange County Business Journal Innovator of the Year 2016, again, Executive of the Year 2017, Los Angeles Business Journal, Becker's 130 Women Leaders to Know. The list goes on and on and on. But clearly you've had a tremendous impact on health communities. So it sounds like what compelled you then to become a leader is sort of serendipity. You not fell into it is not fair. Clearly there was a progression where you had opportunities, you developed your skill sets, but ultimately you said, running a major healthcare organization, once you got those skill sets, did that become more of a burning desire, or did you just, the opportunity presented itself, you had the skill sets and
the
two married up?
There were two things. There was another inflection point in my career, which is interesting. If like you said just before the show started, you really want to have younger people hear about what happened in your life that maybe they could follow. I remember I was working for an organization and I had to lay off this individual. And the reason this memory is so clear to me, because it changed my thought process about what I wanted to lead and how I wanted to lead. But anyway, I had to lay this person off who, for absolutely no fault of their own, was a victim of bad leadership decisions. And I brought him into the office. He was a phlebotomist, which he had in another country, had a higher profession, but didn't have the license here. And I just just couldn't get over that he was the casualty of a bad leadership decision. And I had to give him this news, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll be okay." But he had been supporting his family on this, entry-level position. And he left my office, and I made this resolution that I was going to be a leader that built things. And I was going to be a leader that created opportunities for people and didn't create situations, or would go way out of my way to make sure I wasn't creating situations where people like him would unreasonably and unjustly suffer.
Right, or fail.
Or fail, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting. So what are some obstacles or challenges along the way of becoming, ascending to a CEO position did you experience? Well,
I think early in my career, one of them was that I had so many children. And luckily I had good sponsors who were, to me, the sponsors are the ones that kind of clear the path for you. But there were, I'd say, people in positions of authority that would say, "How do you do this job with those kids?"
Yeah.
And it started to be asked often enough that I was like, they really think maybe I can't do this job with those kids. And I realized they weren't asking my male colleagues the same question. I think a man who at the same time maybe had 4 children, they would have said, "That's a nice stable guy, we should give him more money, he's got a big family to support."
Right.
But instead they were asking me, like, how did I do it? And not in a good way. And so I stopped talking so much about my family in certain circles because I realized some people didn't think that was a good thing. And I firmly believe you should never put your personal life on hold for work.
Right.
Your personal life, that's what you're going to carry with you wherever you go, and never make that sacrifice for a job, because it'll be the wrong choice.
It's funny, when I asked the question, how'd you do with 6 kids? That's admiration speaking. That's that's impressive. But you're right, in the confines of a corporate culture, politics, and jockeying for positions, I can see how that...
And also it depends on what your age is. Now when people say it almost 100% is admiration. But when you're trying to advance and get opportunity and you're much younger and you're not proven yet, it's a big headwind. It's a big headwind, yeah.
It's challenging. Well, it says a lot about you to go through that process. So when you're the CEO of St. Joseph's Health, what are the common myths or misconceptions about being a CEO of a major healthcare system?
Well, I think any CEO job, the big myth is, oh, now you get to tell everybody what to do. And actually, I remember the first day that I walked into the office, and I felt the weight of, St. Joseph was a 100-year organization. I felt the weight of the 100 years and the 25,000 people I was responsible for. And I really walked into that office understanding this was not my office. This office represented much more than me. And, approach it with humility and a lot of discernment about the weight of what my decisions could do and the authority that I did have. Because in some sense, yes, you can tell anybody what to do, but even small comments have big breath. And I was surprised how little things that I would say would be taken to be so big. And I wasn't even thinking that they were important. These are, little things like, oh, the coffee wasn't hot this morning. All these people flowing emotion. And, but I think on the bigger issues, I really did feel the weight, but I was honored that I would be trusted with that. But I did feel the weight of that responsibility.
So when you stepped into that role of 25,000 people, what was that like? I mean, what prepared you to lead 25,000 people?
I think many years of working for people that I admired and some I didn't admire, but mostly learning from them how to be the best I could be and approach situations with confidence. Because although it didn't scare me at all, I was surprised. I thought I would go in and be more jittery. I felt really calm and prepared, but I did, like I said, I felt the weight of it. I knew I had serious business to be responsible for.
What did you know? Because a lot of people want to be a CEO and never make it there, but when did you know you had the skill sets it took to do that job? And that obviously other people recognize that.
I think it's both a matter of this skill and attraction. When things you do go well, because strategy probably is my sweet spot. I have a talent for having 3 dots and being able to see what 6 are going to look like, and somehow envisioning something that doesn't exist yet. We're going to get there. How's it going to be? And I had a lot of experiences that reinforced that, like the wellness, initiative that I did. That's one, and then the other is like, what gives you joy? It's like, I like to do that. It wasn't just that I was good at it, but I like to do it. Because I think we can all do things well, but we don't like to do them all.
Right.
So I think it was a combination of reinforcement over the years of what is a CEO's role. Like, some people think a CEO's role is be the best finance person. I don't think that's the case. I think you need to have the best finance person, and you need to know how to use that talent, but you yourself don't have to be the finance person. The CEO's job is, the most important role is to caretake the future of the organization. And so that is what really, I think, aligned with my strategy skills of, how do we make sure this organization's in a good place?
5, 10, 15,
Yes.
20 years down the road.
Yeah.
Right. That's good advice for people that are seeking it. So leads into the next question. If someone wants to start a career in healthcare management and maybe has dreams of being a CEO, what are some specific roadblocks to look out for?
I actually don't think there's a lot in healthcare. I think healthcare is like an incredible industry to work for. It's one of the most important things our society provides to our communities, and so we're not just making widgets to make a car go faster, not that that's a bad thing, but you're really doing something that changes people's lives, and most likely at some point your own, or your family's. So it's a great industry. Now, the variety of jobs in healthcare are also tremendous. I mean, you've got clinical positions, and I actually started off as a clinical person. I ran a clinical lab, and I decided I liked organizing the structures that the clinical system worked with more than I liked actually doing the clinical work. But there's a diversity of talent. So if you like clinical and having the one-on-one patient impact, that's one track. And if you like the business aspects, that's another track. There's often philanthropy aspects that are involved in healthcare. There's community connections. There's so many different kinds of jobs in healthcare that are meaningful and fulfilling that I think it's a wonderful industry. The educational requirements are higher than most, though.
Right.
So you have to be prepared. You can't just show up and say, oh, I want to be a doctor today. And the same applies for other jobs in healthcare. They're highly specialized. The administrative jobs are really focused and specialized into what our industry knows. Now, we are appreciating the influx of other talents into healthcare. For instance, digital skills are finding a place. IT is finding a place. But the real, I think, magic is how you combine them. So healthcare, to me, I don't see a lot of roadblocks, but it is hard work. There's on LinkedIn, I wanted to print this the other day. It was a really wonderful picture. It's a picture of an iceberg. And at the top of the iceberg, you see things like my bio that you read, and people go, oh yeah, she had to everything had to go perfect for her, and everything was great. But below the iceberg, you see the frustration, the times of doubt, the hard work sometimes, all the things that led to floating it. It was such a great picture, an illustration. I've got to go back and find it because I want to use it, because when I talk to young people a lot, I think there's this tendency, just because you show up for the first job and it's not exactly what you want, it's not the right job. Now, sometimes it's just about working through it and making it the job you want is the real talent of a leader.
Interesting. So it's like the tip of the iceberg. People see the tip and they see your title and what you're doing, and they don't realize everything underneath that they've got you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make a great metaphor?
Oh, huge. Yeah, I could totally relate to it. It's very true, because that's. But we're in much in a very transactional society. They want it now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to necessarily. It's not a criticism. It's just the reality of how generation X, Y, Z, and millennials have sort of seen the world. Because technology, everything's at my fingertips. I get it right now, and you translate that into a medical device or a healthcare career. It takes studies, it takes time, it takes persistence.
Yeah, there's no job that's like the perfect job.
Right.
None. And there's no track that is a guaranteed track. It really is about how you make the most of every win that you're in. I had a boss that had this saying he once called bloom where you're planted. That's what he used to tell me. Just bloom where you're planted, because if you bloom where you're planted, the next thing takes care of itself. Some people go in and say, I'm going to be a manager, and all their focus while they're a manager is on being a director.
Right.
And his advice was, be a great manager and you will become a director just because you were a great manager.
I've never heard it put that way. Bloom where you were planted. That's
great
excellent
saying.
advice. That's phenomenal.
It actually was one of my best mentors here, Tom Collins. He used to be the CEO of Memorial Care.
Okay.
And he's the one who taught me that, and it's good.
That's one of the best things I've heard. I like that iceberg, and then that's a really good one. So now you're appointed the president of City of Hope. You have a very critical mission, and I mentioned to you, before the recording, I had a very good friend who was dealing with cancer, going through this process, and I remember getting a call from his wife, and she was very distraught about the process of care, and it was very disjointed. There was no point. It was like, go to this doctor, go to this person, and it's so stressful going through this process. So I remember talking to her, and I said, well, I've heard of City of Hope, but I think they have a quarterback approach where they have a point person that can direct you to the people you're going to have to go through in this process of care. And that was really a poignant moment because this person was otherwise, it was a very stressful situation. And I know we talked about this, and this is not uncommon to hear.
Yeah. It's really something that I am very proud of about City of Hope and admire. When I first came to City of Hope, they have clinical expertise, bar none, regarding cancer. We have 500 physicians and scientists who do nothing but cancer. So their focus is about cancer, and then they're surrounded by teams where the focus is the cancer patient. And we are known for our supportive care and that special City of Hope touch that it's quite remarkable that such a scientific organization has a reputation just as strong in the care of the patient. We have a physician, Steve Foreman. I was watching a video of his, and I think it articulated it best. He said, when you come to City of Hope, we take the patient's hand and we never let go. And it is so evident, and I've been there just under a year now, and this kind of comment, this kind of gratitude for both the care and the way the care is provided is so distinct of the brand and of the City of Hope, what people expect when they come to City of Hope. I'm honored to be the one to introduce it to Orange County. We have a lot of Orange County people who go there. You probably would be shocked. 3,200 people from Orange County drove to City of Hope last year for care. And I was like stunned. It's like, wow, that's a lot of people. And that's why City of Hope's coming. We're answering the call of those patients. Could you be closer to us? Because it's quite a burden to drive 55 miles.
That was my next question. What's important to bring into Orange County? What you're saying is, I think you said 20% of the patients have to go elsewhere during this epically stressful period of time in your life. So much uncertainty to then burden them with the drive and that transportation and all that entails. So please explain the importance or the strategy as you think about bringing City of Hope here. What does that look like?
Yeah, well, you're right. 20% of Orange County residents, despite when you look at this, how could we not have everything we need here in Orange County? When it comes to really advanced cancer care, 20% of the residents who are diagnosed a year leave the county to get the care that they need. So we've been looking at that, and actually since I started last year, this is what I've spent most of my time on, trying to really understand why they're leaving, what they're leaving for, and what exact services or combination of services does City of Hope need to bring to Orange County to alleviate that. So it's not just our 3,200 patients, it's many more than our patients who are leaving the county. So we're hoping to address those needs so people don't have to leave, because you're right, it's the, of all times in your life where maybe you could do something like that. It's like, for instance, a hip surgery, the complexity of cancer care and the duration of cancer care. It's really hard. I have a large number of people who told me they wanted to go to City Hope, but they just couldn't manage it with their jobs or their kids or something. So our plans are to have a network in Orange County. Our first office will open here in Newport in December.
Okay.
But we're planning a campus in Irvine that's going to be very central to all of Orange County to access.
And what's the campus look like? What's going to be involved? Is it where you go to get care? Is it where research is done? Or
it will be to get care, and we will be doing research also. But some of the laboratories are going to still be in Doherty. We're not bringing the laboratories here, but we're bringing the advanced research. City of Hope has a bench to bedside philosophy. We're one of the few organizations in the country that you can actually get those clinical trials that are under development for the most advanced kinds of cancers that are being reviewed, and then are being treated, and then we can use those on our patients. That's not an ordinary capability. You have to have quite an infrastructure and such a strong science background to really do justice to bringing that to a community. So we're really looking forward to bringing that to Orange County.
That's huge. And so you start in Newport, you end up in Irvine. When does it break ground, or when does it open up in Irvine?
You know, I can't tell you that exact date right now because we're in final planning and negotiations with the developer, but we are hoping soon to be able to be more public about exactly what and exactly when. But we are trying to accelerate as fast as we possibly can, having our footprint on the ground.
That's fantastic. That's it. Well, that's, there's nothing more important than that. And again, when you're going through that process, to have that peace, to have it close, the proximity, and then to have someone who's knowledgeable to guide it, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, it does not.
Back after this message from our sponsor.
Serenitex is focused on eliminating the biggest challenge to migraine management, namely the subjective diagnosis of migraines and standard migraine drug therapy that results in undesirable effects and unproven results. Healthcare and lost productivity costs from migraines is $78 billion a year, and employers lose 113 million lost workdays from migraines. But did you know that more than 95% of those with chronic migraines have never sought help, received a diagnosis, or been treated? Serenitex has discovered a patentable technology solution for the non-invasive detection and screening of migraines. We've tested our approach on actual migraine patients, and it works. To learn more, visit serenitex.com.
Welcome back. City of Hope is, I think you said NCI designated cancer center, and you drive around. There's a lot of places that have cancer center, but you have 500 dedicated physicians and scientists treating this really god-awful disease. Can you expound on that? What does that mean to have an NCI designation for the City of Hope?
Well, an NCI center is dedicated to cancer, and it's the level of, I want to say, resources that we've dedicated to specifically focusing on cancer and the kind of resources we have. For instance, clinical trials. Not everybody has clinical trials of the level that we have. We have, I think, 500 clinical trials going on, are an example. So you've got, City of Hope is, a lot of people think, oh, it's a hospital up in Doherty. Well, it's not just a hospital. It's a hospital, it's a care network. We, I think, have 31 sites of care in San Bernardino, Los Angeles, and Riverside County. It is a research institute. So you talked about the research and that capacity to do research. Many places that have cancer center don't have that research capacity. I mean, you've got those 500 doctors and scientists trying to beat cancer, and that's all they're doing. We have the ability to produce the drugs that we're using in those trials, not all of them, but many of them. So we actually have the production facilities, and we also have a large genetics company. So now when you're looking at cancer, which is a different kind of disease than, I want to say like a knee surgery, for instance, when you have a knee surgery or you have a knee injury, your knee injury doesn't mutate. Cancer is an organism that has an ability to mutate. So if you don't hit it with the strongest, most specific, best arsenal out the first time and destroy it, it can come back stronger.
Right.
And so City of Hope has now this really complete suite of capability to go after cancer in such a way that very few organizations in the country would have that level of care. And there's only 49 that have that designation in the United States, and City of Hope is one of them.
And you're bringing it here, and that's very significant. The whole concept about mutation, usually you think about, brain surgery, aneurysms, heart disease. You got certain, vascular in the heart that's been impacted, or knee surgery. You cut it, you deal with it, and you move on. But with cancer, it does iterate, and it does transform itself, unfortunately. So that makes a lot of sense.
It does, and so you want and of those 500, it's like all 500 of them aren't doing 500 cancers. Right. We have a physician or several physicians who may be doing only the cancer you have, and they've spent their life with a dedicated focus to curing that cancer. So that's just extraordinary ability. That's a gift. You certainly, nowadays, if an organization decided it wanted to pop up and be this, it would be very difficult because it takes, you can imagine the kind of resources it would take to build somewhere like City of Hope now.
Massive,
So my vision with the team at City of Hope is to bring that capability to Orange County. and to make those resources available to the people who live here on the ground here.
So this is a little bit of a controversial question, but you look at Steve Jobs when he had his cancer, and he wanted to go the holistic way and do all these other Eastern forms of medicine. And I've seen this happen in friends' lives where it didn't work out so well. What message would you give people that say, chemotherapy, the way they deal with cancer, that's Western medicine and that's advanced medicine, because if you go this other route, you could have a similar outcome. It seems to me, in my experience in medical devices, that typically the most advanced is advanced for a reason, because it's outcomes. You're getting direct outcomes. So what message would you provide people that say they're thinking about an alternative form versus sort of the Western approach to cancer treatment?
Well, I'm not a physician, so my opinion probably doesn't matter. I do believe every patient, though, needs to make decisions that are right for them and what they're comfortable with and what they determine as quality of life or not quality of life. So, but that being said, you said we do have the most advanced, sophisticated medical system in the world here in the United States of America. And if it were me, I would go to the most expert person, and City of Hope has some of those people. And before I did anything, I would say, what are your recommendations and what treatment should I get? And then I would make the decision on not only what I wanted to do, but where I'd want to do it.
Right.
So I think that if you walked away with anything, remember that if you ever do get cancer, you want somebody with that kind of focus and capability behind them recommending what your treatment plan is. And then you have a right as an individual to choose what your path is. I bet, though, statistically, the more scientific approach probably wins out more often than the less or the more holistic approach. But there is so much we don't know that we're discovering every day, and maybe some of those things will be combined at some point in time for the best outcome for the patient.
Right. And I had to ask the question because I think it's important, and I've had personal friends grapple with that. And it is absolutely an individual decision, certainly. So let's transition a little bit here from City of Hope to kind of going back to your just what I'd call meteoric rise and just an amazing career so far. And now you're developing almost like a startup, new trails, uncharted territory, although you guys have a recipe for success, but this is brand new here. Who's that person in your life that you'd say had, or maybe one or two people in your life that had the most influence on your personal or professional development?
I think immediately three of them come to mind. One is, of course, my parents. I had good parents, just did. I was very blessed, and they gave me a good foundation of faith, family, and hard work. They were kids of the Depression, and so I had great start there. But there is a sixth grade teacher I've had. I've told this story many times. She was a sister of St. Joseph of Orange, and I was in sixth grade, and I lived in Pomona. I grew up in Pomona. She drove me to Cal State Fullerton, and she took me in the middle of the campus, and she said, "Look around. You belong in a place like this. You can go anywhere you want to go. You can do anything you want to do." And I never forgot that. Wow. I was like, it helped instill in me some kind of quiet confidence that I could. She made me believe I could. And then the third is my husband. There's nobody that can have a career and a family like this unless they have a good partner. And my husband has always supported me. And like I said, I didn't marry him and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be a CEO and there's certain things that are going to suck. You're going to have to suck it up." Right. But we kind of grew together, and and he always supported me, and I am so appreciative of that, because I have worked with many women who did not get that same support from their husbands, and I have, and he has supported my success as much as anybody ever could. So I am grateful that I had those people in my life.
That's wonderful. So as you think about your career progression, what are some career recipes for success that you received? Advice from maybe people you worked for or people around you that really propelled your success?
It's funny, you keep saying propelled, and I keep thinking of the iceberg. When I was going through it, it didn't feel like I was propelling. But I think there's no substitute for hard work and good performance. You just have to really be dedicated. I did always really try to separate work and family. Mm-hmm. When I was at home, I really tried to just be at home. And when I was at work, I was very focused at work, and I'm a good multitasker, but I didn't try to cheat either one when I was with the other one. Now, I didn't always 100% of the time make the right decision, but I learned over the years how to increasingly make better decisions that kept that balance. And so I think that is extremely important in your balance and your mental space. And I think as I grew in leadership, the mental space becomes increasingly important, that you are reflective and that you learn and that you consider, like I said, not always appreciating how big your words are, that as you grow in leadership, understanding how to manage that responsibility humbly and appropriately. Right. But I read an article on LinkedIn the other day called Windshield Time. It was written by I think it was a founder of Prologis, and it was a really good article about how he was driving across the country, and he appreciated that he got this windshield time because we're always so back to back, don't take a moment to reflect or think, or really, the thinking and reflecting part's really important to as you grow as a leader. Mm-hmm. And his article was talking about that. It was like a gift to get some windshield time because we don't give ourselves very much time. We overschedule ourselves and allow ourselves to not give our mental and spiritual space room.
And when we do have time, people are on their phones, and you see families together, and they're all on their phones out to dinner.
I hate that.
Right?
It just drives me crazy.
So now we got more distractions and more demanding our time and attention.
Agree.
If you can go back and give yourself advice, what would it be?
I think particularly earlier in my career, I would have probably been a little more assertive on some things, because I think things are better now for women, but they still got a long ways to go. But there were some things I accepted more easily than I would now. Mm-hmm. And like one of them was my pay, things like that. I was always so grateful for the opportunity. I just said, I can learn something new, and thank you very much. And but I think I would be more assertive in speaking up for myself on that. And it wasn't like, if you talk to anybody who knew me, it wasn't like I was a wallflower. I'm sure you know that. I probably was never that. But there were some things on that, and I think I would have been even braver. Bravery is become a passion of mine. It's like, be brave, just go out and I'm sharing a quote from Lisa that I told her I wanted to write something on. It says, Joan of Arc says, I am not afraid, I was born to do this. And that's sort of how I feel like this City of Hope is maybe a culmination of many experiences, and no experience is ever wasted. Sometimes at the time you're not knowing why you're learning something. I mean, I remember my statistics class when I got my master's was like, oh, this is really stupid, I'm never gonna learn this yet. Then 3 years later, here I am. Right. Statistics helped me get the job I needed because I had those skills. And so I think patiently building your skill set broadly and pointedly is important. If you keep going this way and you become master, or what's it called? Something of all. Yeah,
you're a master of all skill. Yeah,
it's the opposite. You're master of none. You're jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades is master of
none.
You at some point you got to start honing in. Extremely important thing is who you work for. Not just the individual, but the company. Do you work for a place that you're just proud of, that you can feel good when you go home every day, and tell your kids that you're really proud to work here and the work you do is important? And then the person you work for is as important as the company.
It is. I posted something on LinkedIn on Friday, and basically it was like, you're where you're supposed to be, right? There's some people that are getting married and some people that are single. There were people that, Obama ended his political career at 55, Trump started at 71. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And it's really funny because it really resonated with people. And I think there's a lot of people in organizations that are kind of stuck. They have a really bad boss potentially, or they haven't found their purpose in that job. Yeah. And I like what you said earlier, where you just got to plant yourself and blossom where you're at, and have a belief and hope that if you keep doing the right things will fall in place. Because I suspect, like a lot of us, we won't always have the perfect boss, but you'll eventually develop the more perfect skill set that will express itself at the right time.
You could always be the perfect boss, though.
Right.
I had
That's right.
Early in my career, I learned something. I can't remember who said it to me, but don't ever let somebody else be an excuse for what you do. and what you can achieve.
Well said.
Yeah. The one other advice I'd say maybe is there are times when it is right to leave, and sometimes you've gotten all the benefit or you've given all to a certain company, and to get it to next level growth, it's time to go. But it's not every other year. I mean, it's something you need to think about. And I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, okay, you're at a point where you've got a couple of options here. And you look at yourself 10 years from now. Which of those two options gets you closer to what you want to be 10 years from now? Not 2 years, because it might be a challenging or difficult 2 years. You might have to work harder for 2 years. But which one will get you where you want to be 10 years? So a little more longer range thinking, I think, is good.
And that's profound and very important. That's great. That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the audience that we haven't covered?
Oh, I don't think so. I just really enjoyed this. But we live in such a great time with so many opportunities to, yes, find work that you're passionate about, and then to really make a contribution. So I think as long as you find your work purposeful, you can work in many, many places and really excel.
Absolutely.
But if there's not that purposeful connection, it's ain't ever going to happen.
It's a long walk.
It's a long
it's
walk.
exhausting.
It's a long,
Exactly.
painful walk. And that doesn't mean like, oh, you tell your kids, like, just find something passionate and you'll be great at it. That's not always true.
No. Sometimes you have to go through
or
the
no one will
suck.
pay you for it.
Right.
I mean, but there's that purposefulness is really, I think, what the magic.
Very, very important to have that purpose behind what you do. So where can the audience learn more about you and the City of Hope?
Well, LinkedIn, our City of Hope webpage, and keep their eyes out. You're gonna be hearing very soon a lot of activity that's going to be going on with us in Orange County. So
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. I really did too.
Yeah. That's it from Beyond. Coming today again from Newport Beach. Wardrobe provided by John Varvatos, South Coast Plaza. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, my webpage, Beyond Ben Bobo. It's all over the place. And remember, until next time, becoming is better than being.
When we founded Stradling in 1975, we made a commitment to helping our clients to succeed and create opportunities for business growth throughout California and beyond. Our people share cutting-edge focus in guiding the critical transactions and disputes of our clients. And we've developed a deep bench of contacts and resources to get the job done. As trusted advisors to technology, life science, software, and medical device companies, we've invested in building our expertise, developing the best of legal talent, and the readiness to serve the business community. From our commitment to our clients to our deep involvement in the communities we serve, we understand our job is your success.